The arena was burning with noise. Tens of thousands of aliens filled the stone seats, shouting, chanting, banging their fists on the rails. Above them, banners of blood and fire waved in the dusty wind. But at the center, the world was silent. Two warriors stood face to face. One was a human male. He had no armor, just worn trousers and rough boots. His chest was bare, marked with scars and burns. His dark eyes watched without fear. Across from him stood a tall, alien woman, an arena champion. Her skin was deep, violet. Her long silver hair tied back like a warrior's banner. In her hands she held a glowing spear that crackled with electric energy. Her name was Vela, and she had never lost a fight. The voice of the arena echoed from above. Blood will decide honor today. The human fights by challenge, and the warrior by pride. Let it begin. Vela took a step forward, her boots slamming against the cracked stone. Her spear spun once in her grip, humming with deadly power. She tilted. Her head, eyes locked on the human. "Do you fear my spear?" she asked, voice low, sharp as a blade. The human looked around. He saw deep cracks in the walls, marks from battles fought long before he arrived. He smiled faintly, calm as if he stood in a field, not a killing ring. "I will," he said, "if it ever stops missing." The arena gasped. No one mocked Vela, not after what she did to her last opponent who lost an arm. Before his body even hit the ground, Vela's smile faded. Her grip on the spear tightened, then without another. "Word," she charged. Her movements were fast, almost too fast for the human eye. The spear came forward like lightning. But the human leaned back, just enough. The spear missed by inches. Again she struck, spinning low this time, trying to sweep his legs. But he jumped, landed lightly, and stepped sideways. She growled, frustration flickering in her sharp eyes. The crowd expected blood, but there was none. She attacked again, harder this time. Her spear came from above. The human lifted his arm and blocked it with a metal bracer. Sparks flew. He grunted in pain but stood his ground. He didn't fight back yet, just dodged, blocked, moved. Vela moved in closer, her body twisting with power, her spear dancing. She screamed and struck for the kill straight at his throat. But something strange happened. The spear stopped an inch away from his skin. The weapon froze in her hands, like it had hit an invisible wall. Vela's arms trembled. Her body locked. She pushed harder, but the spear wouldn't go forward. Her face filled with confusion. The human didn't move. He just looked at the weapon, then back at her as if waiting. Then softly he said, "Is it stuck? Or are you afraid?" Vela stepped back quickly, eyes wide. She checked her spear. It wasn't broken. It wasn't jammed. But it had refused the kill. The arena was silent now. The crowd sensed something was wrong. Warriors from her tribe leaned forward, whispering. The elders sat still, their faces tight. The human picked up a broken stick from the floor. He twirled it once, mocking her form. "Maybe the spear's tired of killing," he said. Law turned away. She didn't want to meet his eyes anymore. Her hand was still shaking. She had killed 50 men, 3 beasts, and even a hybrid brute. In this arena, but her spear never disobeyed until now. The announcer's voice broke the silence. "Draw." The crowd roared in confusion. Vela didn't argue. She walked away, leaving behind the human and the unanswered question. He remained standing, still holding the broken stick. As the gate opened to let him out, one of the guards leaned in and whispered, "How did you stop her spear?" The human didn't answer. He just looked at his hand. It was shaking slightly, not from fear, but from something else. Something he couldn't explain, because when the spear had stopped, he felt a heat rush through his chest. Right. Like the weapon itself had spoken to his blood, and in that moment, he knew this wasn't over, not for her, and not for him. Vela sat alone on the stone balcony of her war chamber, her spear laid across her knees. The moon above was full, but her mind felt empty. The wind brushed her silver hair, but her body was hot with frustration. She had trained all her life. Her spear had never disobeyed, moved like a part of her soul, fast, brutal, exact. Today, in front of her tribe, in front of her enemies, her weapon had betrayed her, and Wersit had betrayed her for a human. She tightened her grip on the spear and hissed. "Why did you stop?" she whispered, voice trembling. He was right there. There was no answer, but her mind kept playing the moment again, and again the spear locking just before his throat, her hands unable to push it forward, her body freezing as if something invisible held her back. Down below, warriors sparred in the night. She heard grunts, metal, laughter, but none of it touched her. She wasn't like them anymore. They still trusted their weapons. Hers had chosen someone else. A soft knock echoed from the chamber door. She didn't answer. The door opened anyway. It was the tribe's weapon priest, an old alien whose face was covered in glowing scars. His steps were slow, but his eyes sharp as a blade. He walked to her silently and placed a small carved box beside her. "You felt it, didn't you?" he said. Vela didn't respond. The priest continued. The spear didn't stop. "It chose. There's a difference." She turned her head. "Weapons don't choose." He smiled faintly. "Yours does." That spear was made in the furnace of stars, bonded by ancient blood. It chooses its protector. And now it refuses to strike that human. Vela stood, angry. "I am the protector. I forged my name in this arena. I am not weak," the priest said. "You are strong. That is why the bond is shifting." The spear sensed something stronger than hate. Vela turned away, face pale. Her hands trembled again. "You mean I am cursed?" "No," he said. "You are being tested." That night she walked to the edge of the arena again. It was empty now. Shadows covered the blood-stained ground, and standing at the center, lone and barefoot, was the human. He was practicing. Not with a real weapon, but with the same broken stick from before. His movements were calm, untrained, but smart. His focus was sharp. She stepped into the sand without a word. He saw her and stopped, breathing steady. "Came to finish what your spear couldn't?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she tossed her spear toward him. It landed at his feet, glowing faintly. "Pick it up," she said coldly. "Let's see if it listens to you too." He bent, touched the spear. The moment his fingers made contact, the weapon pulsed with light. Vela took a step back. Shocked, he stood up slowly, holding the spear. It felt strange in his hands, but warm, alive. He looked at her, unsure. "What is this thing?" She swallowed hard. "It's not just metal. It's alive in some way. It answers to the warrior it accepts." He handed it back carefully. "Then why did it stop before killing me?" "I don't know," she said quietly. "But my people are watching. If it happens again, they'll say I'm broken. Or worse, bonded." He raised an eyebrow. "Bonded." She didn't explain. She couldn't. Bonding with a human was unthinkable. In her tribe, it meant shame or exile. She turned to leave. Before stepping away, she said one more thing. "The trial of blades is tomorrow. They expect me to prove my loyalty. I must enter. And so must you." He blinked. "You want me to fight you again?" She nodded. "No rules, no mercy, no escape. If the spear stops again, I will be punished and you will be executed." Looked at her, quiet for a moment. Then, slowly, he smiled. "Guess I'd better keep moving fast then." She didn't smile back. But as she walked away, her fingers brushed the spear's shaft and it glowed brighter than before. The weapon had made its choice, but Vela hadn't made hers. Not yet. And time was running out. The trial of blades began at dawn. The twin suns had barely risen when the horns screamed across the cliffs, calling all warriors to the arena. Fire banners waved, drums thundered, and warriors from every bloodline stood ready. But today's crowd was different. They weren't here for a tournament. They were here for a reckoning. At the center stood the human, shirtless again, his muscles tense, but calm. He looked up at the rising smoke and dust and breathed deep. Across from him, Vela entered like a shadow of steel and flame. Her armor was lighter than before, made for speed. But her face was unreadable. No fury, no fear. Just silence. Between them stood the High Warlord, a massive alien with gold tattoos across his neck and arms. His voice thundered across the stadium. "One of our warriors is doubted. Her spear has failed. Her loyalty is in question. The human she fought stands unharmed, so let the trial speak truth. No tricks, no armor, no mercy. When the dust clears, only truth remains." The crowd roared. The human rolled his shoulders, loosening up. He was handed a curved training blade, not sharp, but heavy enough to break bones. Vela didn't move. She was already holding her spear. The bell rang. She attacked. First, her spear came like lightning, and this time it didn't hesitate. She struck high. He blocked. She swept low. He jumped. She spun, stabbed, slashed, but every blow was either dodged, parried, or redirected. The crowd watched in awe. The spear wasn't stopping anymore. It moved fast and true, as if eager to strike him. Kept missing, not because of hesitation, but because of him. He was faster now, sharper, smarter. Vela growled, sweat on her brow. Her feet kicked up dust as she circled. "You've been training?" He didn't answer, only moved. The blade in his hand wasn't elegant, but it was solid. He'd blocked with precision, dodged with instinct. He was fighting like someone who had nothing left to lose. She launched into a spin attack. Spear flashed toward his ribs. This time it grazed his skin. Blood splashed across the ground. The crowd erupted. The elders leaned forward. The spear had touched him. The bond, if there was one, was broken. But Vela didn't smile, because something felt wrong. The moment the blood hit her spear, the weapon pulsed again, stronger than before. Her arm shook. Her breath caught in her throat, and then her spear lit up like a star. The energy burned hot, forcing her to drop it. The spear clattered to the ground, glowing as if alive. The crowd went silent. The High Warlord stood. "What is this?" he bellowed. Vela knelt, staring at the spear in shock. It doesn't want to fight him anymore." The human picked up the blade again, but didn't advance. What? He could feel the heat in the air, the weight of something ancient, pressing down on both of them, then from the spear itself. The voice whispered, not with sound, but with thought. "Two hearts. One rhythm. Protector bound." Vela gasped. She turned to the High Warlord. "The spear has chosen. It sees him not as enemy, but as shield." The Warlord's eyes narrowed. "Then you are bonded." The word hit like thunder. Gasps broke. Through the crowd, some shouted in rage, others in disbelief. Bonding between warrior and human, forbidden, sacred, dangerous. The human looked around, confused. "What does that mean?" Vela stood slowly, eyes on the elders above. "It means, if I strike you again, the weapon will turn on me." The trial was no longer about skill. It was about fate. The Warlord drew his blade. "Then let fate burn with you both." Guards began to move. Orders shouted. The crowd shifted, and just as spears were raised toward the human, something incredible happened. The spear on the ground lifted itself. It floated glowing with fire, and Windan pointed at the guards. Then it flung itself into the air and stabbed the ground in front of the human's feet. A line of flame drew itself between him and the warriors. No one could cross it. The Warlord's hand trembled. The human looked at Va. She was breathing hard, chest rising, eyes full of fear and awe. He stepped beside her, slowly. "So, are we still fighting?" She didn't answer. The crowd waited. The fires still burned in a perfect circle around them, and the spear stood like a guardian loyal not to blood or a tribe, but to something else now. To both of them. Asterisk, the fire didn't go out. It stayed in a perfect ring around them, silent and glowing, separating Vela and the human from the rest of the arena. No one dared step across it, not even the High Warlord. The floating spear had returned to the ground, standing upright like a banner in the sand. Still glowing, still alive, Vela's heart was beating so loud she could feel it in her throat. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from truth. The bond was real, and worse, everyone saw it now. One of the elder priests shouted from the viewing platform, "This is heresy. Bonding with a human breaks the old law. She must be cleansed."
Right!
The crowd started shifting, half in fear, half in fury. Soldiers moved down the steps. The warlord raised his arm and gave the order. "Take them both." Vela spun toward the human. "Run." He didn't move. "And leave you to die here." She looked at the fire ring and whispered, "The spear is protecting you, but it won't. Hold forever." He stared at her, then at the glowing weapon, then back at the rising soldiers coming down the steps. "What about you?" he asked. "I'm already marked," she said, voice low. "But if you survive, maybe this bond means something. Maybe it was meant to happen." The fire flickered higher for a moment, then began to fade. The human didn't wait. He grabbed her arm, then we're both leaving. She shook her head. "No, if they think I'm weak, they won't chase you. But if they see us escape together..." Suddenly, a roar cut through the arena. Not from the crowd, it's from the sky. A massive blast of wind tore through the upper walls. Dust filled the air. Something exploded above them. The crowd screamed. From the smoke, a small shuttle dropped like a hawk toward the arena floor. The human's eyes widened. "That's my ride." The shuttle slammed into the sand, throwing up fire and rubble. It rubbled from inside. A voice shouted, "Move now." The human turned to Vela. "Come." She hesitated. "Please," he said. "Don't make me carry you." She stared into his eyes. Then she grabbed her spear, ran, and followed him. They sprinted through smoke and flame, dodging arrows, spears, and energy blasts. The fire ring gave way, but the spear in Vela's hand guided her steps. It felt like it wanted to leave with him. Inside the shuttle, the human slammed the door. The engines screamed, and within seconds they were in the sky, flying fast and low. Vela collapsed onto the metal floor, breathing hard. Her body shook. Her hands were still wrapped around the spear. The human sat beside her, bleeding from his shoulder. But he was smiling. "You always this dramatic when you break rules?" he asked. She looked at him, not with anger, not with shame, but with something softer. "No one was ever worth breaking them for," she said. Silence filled the cabin. Then the pilot's voice came from the front. "You two just triggered a planet-wide bounty. You realize that, right?" Vela stood, still holding the spear. "Then we don't go back." The pilot blinked. "You're serious?" "I can't. Not after this," she said. "I bonded with a human in front of my entire bloodline. They'll hunt me now, maybe forever." Human looked at her carefully. "Then stay with us." She raised an eyebrow. "Us?" "My crew," he said. "We're not warriors. We're scavengers, traders. Nobody important, but we protect our own." Vela looked down at her spear, pulsed softly like a heartbeat. She sat beside him again. "Then I'm nobody too, now," he chuckled. "Ow. Welcome to the club." But deep inside, both of them knew. This was more than exile. The bond between them wasn't just a rule broken. It was something ancient, something powerful, something that made a sacred weapon change its loyalty. And the galaxy wouldn't forget that. Not ever. The sky outside the ship was black, not just night hunters black, that deep kind of darkness that only meant one thing in this galaxy. Someone was being tracked. The cruise ship floated quietly in orbit above a shattered moon. Its lights were off, engines cold. No signal, no movement. They were hiding. Inside, the crew sat tense in silence. Vela stood near the window, her spear resting beside her. Her silver hair was loose now, her armor stripped down to a dark tunic. The human Jace watched her from across the room, his fingers still bandaged from the last fight. "They won't stop, will they?" he asked quietly. Vela didn't look at him. Not until one of us is dead. Me for breaking blood law, or you for touching what was never yours. He swallowed hard. You make it sound like I stole you. She turned then slowly. You didn't. But my people will never believe that. Then the ship's lights flickered. A low warning tone buzzed through the hull. The pilot rushed in. We've got contact. One ship. Small. Fast. It came out of nowhere. Vela grabbed her spear in one breath. Who is it? Jace asked. Pilot's face was pale. A silent hunter. Cloaked class. Only one type of tribe uses that tech. Vela's voice dropped. Assassins. Everyone froze. Outside, the stars disappeared one by one, swallowed by a moving shadow. The silent hunter had found them. Jace reached for his blade. It wasn't much, just a backup weapon. But it felt better than nothing. Vela stepped between him and the door. If they board, she said. You run? He stared at her. Not happening. Jace, this is different, she whispered. These aren't arena warriors. They don't play with honor. They kill quietly, without warning. I protect loudly, he said, stepping forward. We do this together. The ship rocked suddenly. Metal screamed from above. The lights went red. They're cutting in, the pilot shouted. They're not even trying to knock. Vela closed her eyes and touched the spear to her forehead. When she opened them, they were glowing faintly, same as the weapon. Then, we give them a welcome, she said. A hiss sounded from the airlock. Smoke poured through the hallway. Out of the fog came one figure tall. Masked, dressed in shadow-black armor. No footsteps. No breath. Just the silent hum of twin blades drawn from its back. Vela didn't wait. She moved like a whip. Spear flashing in the dark. The assassin blocked the first strike, but barely. Jace moved to flank, swinging his blade low. The assassin ducked, twisted, countered. Metal clashed against metal. The fight moved fast, too fast for the pilot or crew to follow. Vela shouted, "Ow!" Don't let him mark you. What does that mean? Jay shouted back. He can bleed you with one scratch. That's enough for the tracker swarm. Tracker what? Then it happened. The assassin caught Jace's arm, slicing open a thin cut near his elbow. Vela screamed. The spear lit up like a burning star. She didn't attack. She slammed into the assassin, driving her weapon deep into his side. The spear didn't stop this time. It burned through armor and bone. The assassin crumbled, but Jace fell to one knee. Tiny. Red lights began glowing in the air around him, swarming like dust. They marked you, Vela said, kneeling beside him. He looked dizzy. So what now? Now they all know where you are. Her voice was calm, but her hand was already pulling something from her belt-a-sharp stone vial. She broke it across his cut. Smoke hissed from his skin. Burning the mark, she whispered. It'll slow the swarm, not stop it. He gritted his teeth, but didn't cry out. The pilot spoke fast from the cum. We need to run, now. Vela looked down at Jace. I told you this bond would bring death. He smiled weakly, but it brought you too. She froze. The spear pulsed in her hand again, warmer this time. She stood, fire behind her eyes. Then, we stop running, she said. We take the fight to them. The pilot blinked. Are you mad? Vela raised her spear high. No, I'm bonded. Asterisk, the stars outside were no longer still. The ship cut through space like a wounded animal, hunted, and hiding. Inside, the crew worked in silence, but everyone felt it, that pull in the air. Like something ancient was watching. Vela stood in the armory alone. She didn't put on armor. She didn't need it. The only thing she wore was a dark wraparound. Her chest and a leather sash across her waist. Her skin was marked now not with blood, but with lines of light. The spear had changed her. It hadn't let go since the fight. She tried once, just once, to place it on the weapons rack. The moment her fingers loosened, the spear hummed and pulled itself back into her hand, like it belonged there. She didn't speak about it, not to the crew, not to Jace. But it scared her, not because it was dangerous, but because it was choosing him. Through her, behind her, the door opened with a soft buzz. Jace walked in, his arm wrapped in fresh bandages. He looked tired but calm. "You're still awake," he said. "I don't sleep much anymore," she replied. He nodded. "Neither does your weapon. It hasn't stopped glowing since that assassin died." Vela turned, meeting his eyes. "Spear remembers. It's alive in a way I don't fully understand. And now I think it wants to finish something." He stepped closer. "Finish what?" She looked down, then back up. "The bond." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Not the kind that pushes people apart, but the kind that pulls them closer. He didn't joke this time. He didn't smile. "What happens if the bond completes?" Her voice was quiet. "Then I'm no longer part of my tribe. I become part of you." He blinked. "You mean like a partner?" She shook her head. "No, more than that. In my world, when a spear chooses someone through its warrior, it means we're linked at the soul. I feel your pain. You feel mine. If one of us dies, the other follows." Jace's breath caught for a second. "You knew this. And you still saved me?" "I didn't know then," she said. "But I do now, and the bond's not waiting." Lights flickered in the armory. Suddenly, the spear lifted itself from her hand and floated between them. Its glow, bright and burning gold, then blue, then white. Vela stepped back. "It's choosing now. It's asking," Jace frowned. "Asking what?" "If you accept," she whispered. He looked at the weapon, then at her.
What happens if...
"I say yes. You'll carry a piece of me," she said. "Forever. And if I say no," her eyes lowered, "the spear will leave me. It will break the bond, but it won't let me live after that." Jace didn't answer right away. He stepped toward the floating weapon, reached out, then paused. "You said something when I first met you," he said, "that I didn't deserve the spear." "I was wrong," she said. "It knew more than I did." He placed his hand on the shaft of the spear. It didn't burn. It didn't resist. Instead, it turned warm, steady. Like a heartbeat, the glow spread, wrapping around his arm and into his chest, then toward Vela. She gasped and stumbled forward, their bodies lit with the same light. When it faded, the spear dropped gently to the floor. The bond was complete. Jace leaned forward, breathing hard. "I feel you, inside me, like a second breath." Vela smiled for the first time in days. "I feel you too." Then her face changed, because outside the ship, alarms screamed. The silent hunters had returned, but they weren't alone. A whole strike fleet had found them. The crew ran into the hallway, shouting. The pilot yelled from the bridge, "6 ships. Full lock. They're coming fast." Vela picked up her spear and let them. Jace grabbed his jacket. "What are you planning?" She turned to him, eyes glowing again. "You accepted the bond. Now let me show you what it means." The lights dimmed, the engine screamed, and the human and the warrior stepped into battle as one. The sky burned. 6 enemy ships broke through the asteroid belt like knives through cloth. Their engines roared across the dark, cutting across space in sharp attack formations. On every scanner, one message repeated in blood-red letters: Target. Bonded warrior status. Kill on CHDICI inside the human vessel. Alarms blared. The crew rushed to battle stations, but they knew the truth. They weren't soldiers. They weren't built for war, except for 2. Vela and Jace stood in the main corridor, facing the reinforced doors that would soon open to fire and death. Their bond was no longer just a glow, no longer just a feeling, it was a force. The spear pulsed in Vela's hand, brighter than ever. Jace stood beside her, no longer just a man, no longer just a survivor. His arm glowed where the bond had entered him. He could feel her heartbeat inside his bones. Her strength had become his. From the bridge, the pilot shouted, "They've locked on. Impact in 30 seconds." Jace looked at Vela. "You said the bond makes us more. What does that mean now?" She looked ahead, calm. "It means if we die, we do it like legends." The ship shook. Missiles struck the outer hull. Steel screamed. Lights flickered. But the two of them stood firm, unmoving. Like warriors carved from stone, a deep groan echoed through the ship as the side hatch exploded inward. Enemy troops poured in. Black-armored assassins, war drones, creatures bred only to kill every form of weaponry her tribe had ever forged was now coming for her. Jace didn't flinch. Vela didn't step back. They charged. She struck first, her spear spinning through the air like a comet. It carved through metal and flesh with precision. Guided by more than her hands, it moved like it knew what needed to be done. Jace moved with her, his blade an extension of her rhythm. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Every move he made, she answered. Every wound she avoided, he covered. The crew watched from cameras, frozen in awe. It wasn't just fighting, it was something greater, something sacred. They were dancing through death, two souls moving like one. But the enemy kept coming. Wave after wave poured in. Blood coated the walls. Sparks rained down. A spear cracked in Vela's hand, energy bleeding from its core. Jace stumbled, cut across his ribs. Vela screamed, not in pain, but in rage. She grabbed him, pulled him behind a broken support beam. "They'll break through the bridge soon," he said, breathing hard. Vela touched his chest. "No, we end this here." He nodded. How she held up the cracked spear. "If the bond is complete, I can release its core." He blinked. "What happens when you do?" "It becomes a star. Just for a moment, enough to erase everything within reach." Jace's face darkened. "That'll kill you." She shook her head. "It'll kill us both." "That's the bond." He stared at her, then at the enemy forces gathering at the hallway's end. "No," he said. She looked confused. "No." Jace pulled her close. "We don't give them a fire, we give them fear." Stood tall, ignoring the blood. "You carry a spear," he said. "Me carry your legend." Then he turned, ran toward the hallway where the enemy gathered, and threw himself forward like a storm. Vela shouted after him. But he was already inside the wave. She screamed his name. The spear glowed again, responding to her grief, her fury. It didn't want to explode. It wanted to follow him. She sprinted forward, weapon raised, and as the two of them collided again with the army, something impossible happened. The spear exploded in light knot, in firebutt in memory. Visions tore through the enemy minds of her victories, his defiance, their bond. Their courage. The enemies fell back. Not dead but broken not by wounds. By truth, the spear hadn't been meant to destroy. It had been meant to awaken. And now, across the stars, the message had changed. Do not hunt the bonded. Or do not challenge the forgotten warrior. Do not fear the spear. Who it chose. Hours later, the smoke faded. The enemy fleet retreated. No one dared return. The crew walked through the broken halls, calling out for Jace and Vela. They found them on the floor of the weapons bay, side by side, breathing, alive. Vela opened her eyes first, her hand still holding the cracked spear, now quiet, now still. Jace stirred. "Did we win?" She smiled faintly. "No, we rewrote the rules." They stood slowly together, and from that day forward, every tribe, every planet, every assassin learned one thing: when a spear chooses, it does not ask permission. It does not follow law, it follows the bond, and that bond had chosen a human forever.